My wife said, "You're sleeping on the couch until you apologize for something I didn't do." I said, "Okay, I didn't apologize." 3 weeks later, I'd converted the guest room into my bachelor pad. When she finally walked in, she saw that her punishment had become my paradise. I'm a man who builds things for a living. As a structural engineer, my world is one of load-bearing calculations, stress tests, and fail-safes. I design bridges meant to sway in the wind, to bear immense weight, to last for generations. The irony isn't lost on me that I somehow missed the critical flaw in the foundation of my own marriage until the whole damn thing was seconds from collapse. It wasn't a grand betrayal or a secret addiction that did it. It was a cardboard box. A flat pack, particle board and melamine box from IKEA. My name is Logan Shaw. I'm 38. My wife, Harper Sullivan, is 36, a creative director whose vision for branding campaigns is matched only by the intensity with which she curates our life. Our home in the Willow Creek subdivision was a testament to her taste, minimalist, elegant, a little cold. For 9 years, I was a willing participant in that curation. Until the Tuesday everything shifted. Trash day. I was wrestling our oversized blue bin to the curb when I saw the struggle next door. Our new neighbor, Aria Vance, a 24-year-old graphic design student, was being soundly defeated by a long, flat box containing what was undoubtedly a calyx or a billy. It was tipping dangerously. I did what anyone would do, what my father taught me to do. "Hey, need a hand?" I called over, offering a smile I hoped read as friendly middle-aged neighbor and not lecherous predator. Her face flooded with relief. "Oh, thank you." My ambition wildly exceeded my arm strength. It was a 90-second operation. We each took an end, shuffled it up her driveway to the front door, and leaned it against the wall. We exchanged exactly 4 sentences. "Welcome to the neighborhood." "Thanks, it seems really quiet." "It is. You'll like it." "I really hope so, thanks again, Mr. Shaw." "Logan, and no problem." Aria vanished inside, and I turned back to my bin, feeling the mild, wholesome satisfaction of a tiny good deed done. Then I looked up at my own house. Harper stood framed in the bay window of our living room, a silhouette of perfect stillness, arms crossed. The temperature around me seemed to drop 10 degrees. I knew that posture. It was the calm before a hurricane makes landfall. By the time I walked back inside, the atmospheric pressure in our home had become oppressive. "Playing the gallant knight for the college kid, I see," she said, her voice a low, controlled monotone that was far more frightening than a shout. "Harper, she was drowning in a bookcase box. I helped for 90 seconds. I saw the way you were looking at her." She took a step closer, her eyes searching mine for a confession I couldn't give. "All charming and helpful. You never offered to help Mrs. Abernathy with her lawn." "Mrs. Abernathy has a landscaping crew. And a husband." I sputtered, the logic so absurd it short-circuited my usual diplomatic pathways. "What is this really about? Did you have a bad day at work?" "Don't you dare deflect," she hissed, the control cracking at the edges. "Don't you dare gaslight me, Logan. I know what I saw. Your whole demeanor was inappropriate." And then came the sentence. The one she deployed before over missed anniversaries or forgotten chores, but never with this nuclear finality. She drew herself up, a queen pronouncing sentence. "You can sleep on the couch tonight. And you'll stay there until you apologize and admit what you did." The old Logan Shaw, the peacekeeper, the appeaser, the man who believed smooth waters were the sign of a successful voyage, would have engaged. He'd have argued, pleaded, eventually bargained his way into a strained détente that involved flowers and a mumbled, "I'm sorry you felt that way." But as I looked at her, at the absolute, unshakable conviction in her eyes that she had witnessed a profound betrayal, something in me broke cleanly. Not with a scream, but with a quiet, definitive snap. It was the sound of a load-bearing beam giving way. A profound, eerie calm settled over me. I saw the entire flawed blueprint of our dynamic in that instant, her unexamined jealousy as law, my compliance as the required tribute. "Okay," I said, my voice flat and devoid of all emotion. She blinked, thrown by the lack of resistance. "Okay. That's it?" "Yeah, that I'll sleep on the couch. Until you apologize." A flicker of confusion was quickly buried under a veneer of triumph. She'd heard my agreement to sleep on the couch, the second part was just noise. She smirked, a cruel little twist of her lips. Fine. Enjoy the springs. She turned on her heel and ascended the stairs to our bedroom, the master suite that now felt like a foreign country. I stood in the silent, tastefully decorated living room, listening to the echo of that snapped beam. This wasn't a disagreement. This was an eviction notice. The first night on our designer, charcoal gray sectional was an exercise in masochism. By 2 a.m., my spine had mapped every seam in the cushions. By sunrise, I felt decades older. Harper came down, impeccably dressed for work, her perfume a cloud of unattainability. "Well?" she asked, pouring herself a cup of expensive single-origin coffee. "Ready to be an adult and apologize?" "My back is ready for a better mattress," I replied, stretching. "I'll be in the guest room tonight." Her smirk returned. "Suit yourself. The futon in there is a medieval torture device." She was right. The guest room was Harper's overflow closet and storage graveyard. A sagging, musty futon was wedged between racks of off-season clothing and boxes of someday decor. But it had a door. A door I could close. That door became my new cornerstone. A crucial detail, we managed our finances with a careful, modern separation. Joint account for mortgage, utilities, groceries. Personal accounts for everything else. I'd been salting away money for a obscenely high-end set of driver bits, a titanium dream for a hobbyist woodworker. A little over $3,000. On day 4, lying on the futon and staring at a water stain on the ceiling shaped like a frowning continent, I had my epiphany. Why was I saving for tools to maintain a shared home from which I was being systematically exiled? The blueprint in my mind changed. I wasn't going to plead for re-entry. I was going to build a new structure. I opened my laptop. By the time Harper left for a long weekend at her sister Jenna's place, the transformation was in motion. A queen-sized memory foam mattress was delivered. I called my friend Ben Carter, who showed up with his truck and a skeptical grin. "Dude, she's gonna lose her mind." "Her mind is already lost," I said. "I'm just finding a comfortable place to wait for it to come back." We became marketplace scavengers. A buttery soft, broken-in leather recliner for $200. A solid oak desk that weighed a ton. A flawless 55-inch TV from a guy whose new girlfriend demanded something less man cave. We hauled it all in, a silent, sweaty rebellion. The room, once an afterthought, began to take on a new skeleton. I assembled the bed frame in the quiet of the afternoon, the sound of the mallet driving connectors home feeling deeply, fundamentally satisfying. This was mine. My effort, my space. When Harper returned, she noticed immediately. The guest room door was shut, a new, subtle barrier. A faint scent of new electronics and leather lingered in the hall. She knocked, her rap sharp and official. "Logan, this is pathetic." "It's comfortable," my voice came from the other side. "You're wasting our money." "My money," I corrected, the click of her heels walking away the sweetest sound I'd heard in weeks. I became an artisan of passive resistance. A mini fridge slotted under the desk. A microwave on floating shelves. A thick, sound-absorbing rug in a deep navy that hid coffee stains. Blackout curtains that turned day into night. It was no longer a guest room. It was room 101. My sanctuary. My sovereign territory. I'd bring my coffee in there in the morning and just sit in the recliner, surveying the domain. The silence was no longer lonely, it was peaceful. I started reading again, actual paper books, for the first time in years, the only sound the hum of the fridge. The final, declarative act was the digital keypad lock. I installed it myself, drilling into the doorframe with a focus I usually reserved for work projects. It wasn't about keeping her out of the house, it was about defining the boundary around the one space that was now incontestably mine. The soft, affirming beep it made when I typed the code, beep, beep, beep boop, was the sound of freedom. The first time she tried the handle and found it locked, the silence from the hallway was profound, a vacuum about to implode. "Logan." Her voice was icy steel. "Why is this door locked?" I paused my game, I bought a PlayStation 5, because why the hell not? Privacy. Open this door. Right now. No, thank you. I'm good in here. Then came the barrage. Not fists, but the flat of her hand, slapping against the solid oak. Bam. 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 Open this door immediately. I stood, walked to the door, my heartbeat steady and slow. I did not open it. Harper. You issued an eviction notice from the master bedroom. I have complied and established tenancy elsewhere. You may rescind the original notice with a retraction and an apology at any time. I will not apologize, I know what I saw. Then we have a standoff, enjoy the master suite. I heard her storm off, then the muffled, theatrical rise of her voice. She'd put her mother, Gloria Montgomery, on speakerphone. Classic Harper move, trying to assemble a jury. Mom, he's having a psychotic break. He's locked himself in the guest room. Gloria's voice, always measured, came through tinny and confused. In his own home? What does that mean? He installed a lock, a digital lock. Like I'm some intruder. Well, honey, why is he in there? A pause so long I could picture her furious, embarrassed blush. He's being disciplined. Disciplined, Logan? For what? He was flirting with the new neighbor girl. Harper's voice was shrill, a telltale sign of her doubt. Was he? Gloria, a retired family counselor, shifted into therapist mode. I'm just seeking clarity. What did he do, specifically? The next silence was excruciating. He helped her carry a box. Over the speaker, Gloria's non-response was a verdict in itself. Then, gently, firmly, Harper. Maybe, you should be the one to apologize. The call ended with a violent disconnect that I allowed myself a small, humorless smile. Validation, from an unexpected source. The banging resumed, tinged with desperation now. I'm calling a locksmith. Today. Feel free, I called back, my voice calm. I am a co-owner of this property. Installing a lock on an interior door is within my rights. I've already checked the statute. The banging stopped. She had checked, too. The legal landscape of our war had just been surveyed. And she didn't like her position. The silence that followed was of a different quality, the quiet of a retreating army, regrouping for a different kind of assault. The assault moved digital. My phone lit up on the desk. This is insane. You're acting like a child. That room is for guests. My mother is coming next month. All your clothes are still in our room. You look ridiculous. I typed back, a general in a bunker. I bought new clothes. They're in my closet now. Your closet? It's a guest room. Not anymore. You claimed the entire master. I'm optimizing in used square footage. This is stupid. Just come back to our room. My thumb hovered. An unconditional white flag. Does that offer include an apology? I sent. No. Then I'm good here. The mattress is excellent. The Cold War intensified. She claimed the master bathroom as her private spa, announcing it over breakfast as if decreeing law. I simply nodded. That weekend, I relocated to the hall bath and transformed it. A rainfall showerhead that felt like a tropical storm. A Japanese bidet toilet seat with a heated seat and a remote control, a life-altering purchase. Plush Turkish towels, a bamboo bath mat, framed vintage maps of places I wanted to visit. I turned it into a sanctuary that made her en-suite look clinical and sterile. I'd leave the door open just a crack so she could glimpse the transformation. Petty? Maybe. Effective? The tightness in her jaw said yes. She forgot to cook for me, filling the kitchen with the smell of a single salmon fillet. I bought an air fryer and a slow cooker, meal prepping gourmet lunches, herb-crusted chicken, chili, roasted vegetables, that filled the house with smells better and more abundant than her solitary takeout. The kitchen became another neutral zone, our interactions reduced to the silent ballet of two people using the same space at different times. Her company shifted to a hybrid model. She needed a home office. She knocked on my door at 7 a.m. on a Monday. Logan, that we need to talk about the guest room. My room? It needs to be my office that I'm remote 2 days a week starting next month. Congratulations, the master is huge. Plenty of space. There's no room with the bed and my dressers. Then move them. Or apologize. You are the most petty man I have ever met, she spat, her composure fraying. And you're the only woman I know who declared martial law over an act of basic decency. Defeated, she set up a desk in the living room corner, a perpetual storm cloud of resentment clicking away at her keyboard next to the TV. I bought $300 noise-canceling headphones. The war of attrition was in full, silent swing. The house was splitting in two, not along physical lines, but along lines of sheer will. But then, she made her fatal mistake. She moved from siege to invasion. From a war of nerves to an act of tangible violation. I came home from a long site inspection to find my door slightly ajar. My heart stopped, a cold fist closing around it. The keypad lock was gone, pried from the wood with what looked like a crowbar or a tire iron, leaving splintered, angry gashes in the doorframe that spoke of brute force and fury. Inside, my sanctuary had been ransacked. My PlayStation was unplugged and shoved in a corner, wires tangled. My mini-fridge was powered off, its contents, yogurt, a few sodas, some cheese, beginning to sweat and sour in the dark. My bed was stripped, the sheets in a crumpled heap on the floor like a discarded skin. And on my desk, centered perfectly, a note in her precise, elegant handwriting. Routine inspection for property damage and lease violations. Management. A cold, clear fury, purer than any anger I'd ever felt, washed through me. This wasn't about jealousy or hurt feelings anymore. This was about dominion. This was about breaking me. It was vandalism. It was a message, nothing of yours is safe. I called her. She answered on the first ring, defiance in her silence. You broke into my room. It's not breaking in that I own it. That lock was a safety hazard and you know it. You destroyed my property, the doorframe is ruined. Prove I did it, she shot back, a taunt in her voice. She thought she was safe. She thought I was all bluster and wounded pride. And that's when I said the word that changed the trajectory of everything. Not a shout. Not a curse. A simple, quiet, terminal. Okay. I hung up. I did not yell. I did not throw anything. I felt, for the first time, completely empty of the heat of argument. All that was left was cold, hard action. I opened my laptop. I had been, in my engineer's way, documenting everything. A folder on my desktop, meticulously organized. Photos of the original intact door. Scanned receipts for every item, paid from my personal account. Screenshots of every text where she reaffirmed my punishment. A PDF of the police report from when she'd called them in a futile attempt to have me removed from my own room. Now, I added high-resolution photos of the vandalized doorframe, the discarded lock on the hallway carpet, the spoiled food. I time-stamped everything. Then, I called Marcus Ford, a family law attorney Ben knew, known for being a calm, immovable object. I wasn't ready for divorce. Not consciously. I wanted something more precise, more surgical, a legal separation of space within the marriage. A formal, court-recognized partition. A judge's order that said this room, this boundary, was mine. I emailed him the file. He called me back within the hour. Mr. Shaw, he said, a hint of grim amusement in his tone. This is one of the more thoroughly documented domestic disputes I've seen. It's almost beautiful in its tragic specificity. I can have the paperwork drawn up by tomorrow. The documents she was served 2 days later were a thing of cold, clinical beauty. A petition for exclusive use of the guest room, described as respondent's primary residence due to petitioner's constructive eviction. Reimbursement for the destroyed lock and door repair, and a formal proposal for dividing the use of common areas. It was legalese as a scalpel, cutting through our emotional morass with pristine, unassailable logic. When she confronted me, the papers trembled in her hand like leaves in a storm. Her face was bloodless, her eyes wide with a new kind of shock, legal shock. You got a lawyer? Over a lock. You committed breaking and entering and destruction of property, over a box. You're going to burn our entire marriage to the ground over this? Am living in a room. You've been waging a scorched earth campaign for 8 weeks. Why is your pride more valuable than our partnership? The facade crumbled then, but into something more manipulative than genuine. Her anger melted into heaving, theatrical sobs. I'm under so much stress. Work is a nightmare. My mother is criticizing everything. And you checked out. I wanted you to fight for me. To show you cared by giving in. I looked at my wife, this beautiful, brilliant, broken stranger. The woman I'd shared a life with. Fighting for you should not require surrendering my sanity. Showing I care cannot mean confessing to a crime I didn't commit. You didn't want a husband, Harper. You wanted a subject. And I'm resigning from that position. Desperate, she tried a new, sadder tactic, seduction. She'd parade through the common areas in lingerie she knew I liked, posing at the fridge. She'd cook my favorite beef bourguignon, the smell torturously good, and eat it alone at the dining table with a single glass of wine, a performance of lonely, defiant abundance. It was transparent and achingly sad. It made the house feel like a museum of a dead relationship. I'd just nod politely if we made eye contact and retreat to my room, where the air was my own. Then, she conceived her masterstroke. The nuclear option designed to either force a reconciliation or finalize the destruction. She invited Aria Vance and her boyfriend, Mark, over for a neighborly dinner. She did not tell me. I came home from the gym, sweaty and tired, to find them at our dining table, Harper pouring Pinot Noir with a hostess smile so wide and brittle it looked like it might crack her face. Logan, perfect timing. Join us. I'm just getting to know our lovely new neighbors. Aria looked like she wanted to be teleported to another planet. Mark was just baffled, shifting uncomfortably in his chair, sensing the horrific energy in the room. Every cell in my body recoiled. This was psychological warfare of the highest order. She was weaponizing the very person she'd accused me of desiring, forcing us all into her twisted narrative. I have plans, I said flatly, heading to the kitchen for a protein shake. Don't be rude, honey, she cooed, the endearment of venomous dart. Sit. Eat. We're having such a nice time. I looked at Aria's pleading, apologetic eyes, at Mark's confusion. Harper had taken hostages in her last-ditch battle. I'm good, enjoy your dinner. I turned toward my room. Aria practically launched herself from her chair. We should go. Actually. I just remembered, a group project. Due tomorrow. At dawn. Thank you so much, Harper. They were a blur of motion, grabbing jackets, almost sprinting for the door. As they passed me, Mark muttered, "What in the actual hell was that?" to Aria, his voice a mixture of horror and disbelief. The door closed behind them. The silence was instantaneous and crushing, thicker than before. Harper's mask shattered, the beautiful porcelain doll face contorted with pure, unadulterated rage. You humiliated me. You humiliated them. I fired back, my own control finally snapping, the volume of my voice surprising even me. You dragged the woman you accused me of wanting into the middle of our dysfunctional theater to prove some deranged point. That wasn't hospitality, Harper. That was a public execution of our dignity. You used them as props. I was trying to fix this. By doubling down. My voice echoed in the vaulted ceiling. You can't fix a foundation you insist on pretending isn't cracked. The only thing you're trying to fix is your own narrative, and I refuse to be a character in it anymore. The show is over. A week later, I came home to an envelope on the kitchen island. No note. Just a single key, her key to our house, lying on top of it, a tiny, metallic symbol of surrender. She was gone. Her closet was half empty, her favorite La Mer skincare products missing from the master bath. The silence she left behind was different this time. It wasn't hostile or tense. It was hollow. Final. It was the silence of a verdict rendered. My lawyer, Marcus, was pleased. Voluntary departure strengthens your position for a buyout, if it comes to that. But the notion of a position felt like ashes in my mouth. I'd won every battle and was left standing alone in the ruins of the kingdom. She returned 2 weeks later, not with an apology, but with her brother, Carter Sterling, and a 20-foot U-Haul blocking the driveway. The divorce papers, citing irreconcilable differences and constructive abandonment, were already drafted, sitting in Marcus's office. She was here for her spoils, her share of the plunder. "I'm taking the bedroom set," she announced, her voice trying for command but landing on a shrill, strained note. "Okay, Dad, I'll keep the nightstands and the rug. I want the living room TV. It's mine. Premarital asset. The receipt is in the filing cabinet. Top drawer." She flounced off, Carter shooting me a glare meant to wither. "You really destroyed her, man. Over nothing." "Did I, Carter? What's the story you got? That I ran off with a girl from Home Depot?" "She said you emotionally abandoned her, that you chose a room over your wife." "I got a hotel room," I said, my voice dangerously calm, "after she burned my house down, Carter. It's not the same thing. They took half of everything, down to the spoons, measured with a chilling, literal-mindedness that was the final death knell of any shared future. The final confrontation happened when she marched into room 101, now with the door permanently open, and pointed a trembling finger at my high-backed gaming chair. "That was communal furniture, it goes in the split. That chair was purchased with my personal funds for this room, after you evicted me from the master. It is post-separation personal property. Let a judge decide." She recoiled as if struck. The legal terminology was a language she couldn't manipulate, a field she couldn't dominate. In a last, desperate bid, she played her final, tragic card. The tears this time were real, born of utter defeat and the crumbling of her entire world. "If you ever loved me, you just say sorry. To make this stop. To save us." The words hung in the air, the naked, ugly truth of our entire 9 years together. I looked at the woman I'd loved, now a stranger fueled by spite and a broken narrative, and I felt a profound, exhausting pity. "If you ever loved me," I said, each word measured and quiet, "you would never have needed me to apologize for something I didn't do." She crumpled. Not a strategic feint, but a genuine, boneless collapse onto the hardwood floor of the hallway, sobbing great, shuddering gasps that seemed to tear themselves from her core. Carter helped her up, his glare now softened into something like pity, for her, for me, for the whole damn, unnecessary tragedy. They left with a half-full truck, a physical manifestation of a half-lived life together. The divorce was fast. Her lawyer took one look at the documentation, the chronological timeline, the police report, the photos of the destroyed door, the text evidence, and advised her to settle. No fault, clean split. I kept the house, buying out her equity. It's a financial anchor, but it's my anchor. I repainted the hallway, sanded and refinished the damaged doorframe until the scars were almost invisible. Almost. My therapist, a kind woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, calls it an extinction-level event for a dysfunctional system. I'm rebuilding. Room 101 is still my favorite place, though I've reclaimed the master bedroom. I haven't knocked the wall down. The 2 separate rooms stand as a monument, a permanent, physical lesson in boundaries. One for rest, one for life. I heard through the gossamer thin suburban grapevine that Harper is in therapy, too. I genuinely hope she finds peace. She posts on social media sometimes, carefully crafted quotes about narcissists and gaslighting, about, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. The comments from her circle are a symphony of supportive hearts and, "You go, girl, s." I don't begrudge her that. Her truth is the shelter she's built from the wreckage, mine is the foundation I'm pouring on cleared ground. The real twist, the coda that still makes me shake my head with a grim, incredulous laugh, came from the very source of it all. Months after the dust settled, Aria and Mark invited me over for beers. They were moving, headed for a condo downtown. "We had to know," Aria said, handing me a local IPA, her expression serious. After the dinner of eternal awkwardness, we were convinced we'd moved next to a portal to a daytime soap opera. What was actually happening? We lost sleep over it. So I told them, the whole, unabridged saga, from the box to the lock to the lawsuit to the moving truck. Mark listened, his jaw slowly unhinging. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment, swirling his beer, processing the absurdity. Then he said, "Hold on. Just, hold on. He disappeared into his bedroom and came back with his laptop. He opened it, clicked a few times, and turned the screen toward me. I thought you might need this someday. For, like, closure or something. It was a video, shaky, shot from his phone held low in his lap at that terrible dinner table. The audio, however, was crystal clear. There was Harper's voice, syrupy and forced, dripping with false confidence. "Oh, Logan and I are stronger than ever, really. This is just a silly little rough patch. All marriages have them. We believe in fighting for love, you know. True love means never giving up, even when it's hard." The camera panned slightly, unintentionally catching the white-knuckled, trembling grip of her hand on her wine glass, and the single, perfect tear that escaped her eye and that she quickly, furiously brushed away with a knuckle, thinking no one saw. Mark had recorded the entire, horrific performance. "I started it when she got all intense and glassy-eyed," he said sheepishly. "I thought she was gonna have a full breakdown at the table. I figured, maybe you'd need proof she was unstable or something. For the lawyers. Seemed like the kind of situation where you'd want evidence." I stared at the screen, at the heartbreaking, grotesque performance. Proof. Not of instability, but of the performance itself. Of the immense, tragic gap between the narrative she was projecting and the reality she was living. Of the profound loneliness and desperation at the core of all her fury. I hadn't needed it for the lawyers. My own documentation had been enough. But this was something else. This was the external, objective witness to the insanity. A reflection of the fracture from a completely outside perspective. "Dude," Mark said, clinking his bottle against mine with a soft clink. "You didn't just drop this." He mimed picking up a crown from the floor. "You had to build a whole damn fortress to protect what was yours. Respect." We laughed, but it was a tired, understanding laugh. The truth is, there was no crown. Just the shattered remains of a vase I'd spent years carefully holding together, my hands cut and bleeding from the effort, while she insisted it wasn't cracking. Letting it smash was the only way to stop the cutting. The house is quiet now. It's my quiet. I'm dating, cautiously. One woman, after hearing the abbreviated story, shook her head and said, "You were both too stubborn. Love requires compromise." She wasn't wrong, but she missed the point. Another just grinned, raised her glass, and said, "You built a fortress instead of saying sorry." Legend. That one didn't work out either, but we parted as friends. Maybe the right one will understand that sometimes, the smallest, most righteous hill is the only one worth dying on. Not because of the hill itself, but because of the vast, unsustainable swamp of compromise and self-betrayal that lies behind you. I built bridges for a living. I just never learned how to build one over the chasm that opened between my wife's reality and my own. So I built a room instead. Solid. Defined. With a lock on the door. And then, slowly, I started building a life. Subscribe Karma Twin Voices for more.